One thing you can count on with Chris Paul on almost every possession down the court is he's going to do the right thing. Maybe it doesn't result in what you want, but he's going to make the right play almost any time. You can say that maybe 50% of the time with Russell Westbrook. The Warriors are in a weird spot as a team. After losing in 6 games in an injury-riddled series, the Warriors lost Kevin Durant, lost Andre Iguodala, but managed to snag D'Angelo Russell from the Nets in a sign-and trade. They also brought back Klay Thompson, Kevon Looney, and gave a pretty good contract for them to Willie Cauley-Stein. So with that, the Warriors have a lineup of Curry, D'Lo, Klay Thompson when he comes back, Draymond Green, and either Kevon Looney or Willie Cauley-Stein. I would personally go with Looney. This team could either be really solid or a mess. Really all depends on how D'Lo and Curry mesh. I personally feel this team will be very solid. Good even. I could see them being a number 4 seed, maybe even a number 3 seed. And I could see Stephen Curry winning the 2020 MVP.
Rebound. Save. Absolutely incredibly with the acrobatic alley-oop.
Before we start this video, I wanted to quickly promote my podcast. Me and Mojo have a podcast called The Hoopscast. Episode 4 just came out, and it was on our reaction to the Westbrook to the Rockets trade. And we also made and compared power rankings, as well as went over our NBA award picks. So check that out. Link will be in the description and in the card above. Stephen Curry in 2016 had potentially the greatest offensive season in NBA history. This man averaged 30 points per game on 50, 40, 90. That is fucking absurd. Up until that point, the highest point per game average with 50, 40, 90 was 28 points per game from Kevin Durant and Larry Bird, both a 6'9" and a 7 foot tall player. Curry did this as a 6'3" guard. The highest 50, 40, 90 average by someone Curry's height or lower was 19 points per game from Steve Nash. Curry put up 11 more points per game than that. Absolutely insane. He also shot 45% from 3 on 11 attempts per game, many of those being heavily contested and from way behind the line. A guy my height did that in the NBA. It was an incredibly impressive feat, and to me it was the greatest offensive season in the history of the NBA. And with this performance, Curry won the first unanimous MVP in NBA history, one that he deserved. Anyone who argued or still argues otherwise is a clown. Now, the reason I'm talking about 2016 is because I believe Stephen Curry can do something similar to that this season. Maybe not quite as ridiculous, but definitely ridiculous. Let me explain why. The Warriors, for the first time since 2015, are going into the season as underdogs. Outside of Steph, there is only one All-Star on this team for at least the first 4 to 6 months of the NBA season, because it doesn't seem like Draymond Green is an All-Star level player anymore. He was already on the borderline of All-Star and just lower level stars, so with just a small decline, it's enough for him to no longer be an All-Star level player, but certainly still very good. But the team is Curry, D'Lo, who might not even be an all-star in the Western Conference unless he makes a big jump, because remember, he only made it because Victor Oladipo got injured in the East. Then we have Klay Thompson at 3, Draymond Green at the 4, and either Willie Cauley-Stein or Kevon Looney at 5. Until the very earliest, in January, which is being optimistic for Klay Thompson's return. Until then, the Warriors' starting small forward is projected to be Alfonso McKinnie. Yikes. I wouldn't even be comfortable with him as my backup small forward, let alone the starter. And because of Klay Thompson's absence, until he comes back, D'Angelo Russell is the only one on this team that can reliably score more than 10 points per game. All of that is to say that Stephen Curry might have to do a little bit of a carry job here. But I think that there is enough here that that carry job wouldn't be so impossible that they wouldn't be a higher seed. With Kevin Durant gone, Curry has to be the number 1 option again. And the last 2 times that he was the Warriors' number 1 option, he won the MVP award. So let's look at Curry's potential competition. We're going to do this by looking at the league's biggest stars and comparing their situations to Curry's. For James Harden, I think Russ takes way too much away from Harden's game for him to come anywhere close to averaging 36 points per game again. I don't see him passing 27, 28 at the most with Westbrook. I and many others said that Chris Paul next to James Harden would hold him back in the stats department, but as it turned out, Chris Paul is a phenomenal off-ball player. They were able to make it work because of that. Russell Westbrook might be the worst off-ball player in the history of the NBA. So I don't think the result will be quite the same. Chris Paul also said that he wanted to be more off-ball as he was declining. I don't think Russ is going to be all that willing. Now, I know some comments might say, oh, well, Westbrook took a backseat to Paul George this season, so why wouldn't he with James Harden? Well, there's a key difference here. To put it simply, Paul George is an off-ball superstar. Most of OKC's sets would be Russ dribbling the ball, either at the top of the key or getting a screen from Steven Adams, with Paul George coming off of some screens for a catch-and-shoot three, or he gets the ball and drives inside like he does here. Paul George is not a ball-dominant superstar. James Harden, on the other hand, might be the most ball-dominant player that we have ever seen. The only one currently in the NBA that comes anywhere close to as ball-dominant as James Harden is Russell Westbrook. It's a match made in hell. So I don't think Harden has the right circumstances to win MVP next year. So let's look at some other big fish, specifically tackling the two best duos in the NBA, Anthony Davis and LeBron, and Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Both of these duos I think will detract from each other a bit, at least enough to keep them out of the higher seeds of the MVP race. I don't think you could ever win MVP with LeBron James as your teammate. I don't think the way the media treats LeBron's teammates really allows that. I don't think LeBron will win MVP again in his career with his age as well as him playing with Anthony Davis. I don't think he will be quite up there in the MVP race. However, I do think he is a top 3 candidate. With Paul George, he had a phenomenal season last year. 28 points per game on great shooting split, shooting 10 threes a game. Guy was insane. When you add his elite defense on top of that, he was certainly a legit MVP candidate. But I just don't believe that there is any way that Paul George can shine over Kawhi Leonard on the Clippers. Kawhi is just a superior player, and as a result, I think Paul's stats will take a good bit of a dip. Same goes for Kawhi in terms of the regular season. Last year with Toronto, he shared shots with Kyle Lowry and Pascal Siakam, who took 22 shots a game combined last year. Whereas Paul George in the 2017-18 season, which is a role I think he'll be closer to than his MVP role, Lou Williams last year as well, shot 32 shots combined. So there will be a few less touches, and another thing that comes with Kawhi is he likes to sit games. You might think this year he will sit less games because he isn't recovering from the injury that he got versus the Warriors in 2017, but he got injured in the finals. He just played through it. It's very possible that the Clippers sit him out on back-to-backs like the Raptors did this season. And because of that, he would probably only play 60 or so games like he did last year. Because looking at his stats as well as the Raptors' win totals, last year, Kawhi very well could have been an MVP candidate. But he only played 60 games and that pretty much killed all of his chances. So as a result, if Kawhi does a similar thing this year, which I expect him to, it will keep him out of the MVP race. If he doesn't, though, I think he has a very good shot. For some potential sleeper picks, Joel Embiid, Damian Lillard, and Nikola Jokic. I think these guys all have the potential to make it happen, but they are sleeper picks for a reason. The easiest one to rule out is Joel Embiid. He's never played over 65 games in a season, and it doesn't seem like he ever will. I mean, last year, he was insane, underratedly insane in fact. He averaged 27 points, 13.6 rebounds, 2 blocks, and 4 assists, shooting 48% from the field. So give him a 75 to 80 game season, and I think it's very well possible that he could win an MVP. But like I said, I don't know that that will ever happen in his career. Jokic needs to boost his scoring a bit in my books. 20 points per game really won't cut it. He also needs to boost his 3-point percentage. If he can do that, and the Nuggets do as well as I think they can do, which is very well, then yeah, I think Jokic could be an MVP candidate. A problem that comes with him though is that even though he did become more popular after last year's playoffs, I still don't think he's quite a household name, and that kind of stuff does matter in an MVP race. For Damian Lillard, to keep it short and sweet, I don't think the Blazers will be a high enough seeded team to get him that award. While trading Evan Turner for Kent Bazemore was a great move, they lost Seth Curry, Enes Kanter, as well as both of their starting forwards. The team got worse, while 3 teams in the West, the Lakers, the Clippers, and the Jazz, got a lot better. So that rules Dame out. The last guy is Giannis, and to me, he's the biggest threat to Curry's potential MVP award. The circumstances for Giannis really haven't changed. Nothing has happened to prevent Giannis from doing the same thing he did last season in 2020. So he is the greatest threat to Steph Curry. If I had to make a prediction, I would say that Curry wins the MVP, Giannis is a close second, and LeBron comes third. One final thing to consider is that narrative has always had an impact on the MVP award, at least for the most part. Last year, it really wasn't too narrative-based, but in the past, it had been. With Russell Westbrook, it was the triple-doubles and the fact that Kevin Durant had just left the OKC Thunder. For Derrick Rose, it was him becoming the youngest MVP as well as potentially dethroning the king. For Curry, in his second season, it was his rise to superstardom as well as the rise of the Warriors dynasty. This year, Curry has to prove himself. Prove that he can do it without Kevin Durant. I think a lot of people forgot just how damn good this guy is, and in this upcoming season, he's gonna remind them. So that is why I think Stephen Curry will win the 2020 MVP. That's the end of this video. Please be sure to check out episode 4 of the Hoopscast. Like and subscribe, and cue the outro music.